No. We're having issues with our mics, so we're making sure that everybody can hear us. Okay. Announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on demand on the City of 29 Palms website at www.29palms.org. You may also live stream this meeting by going to the city website and clicking on the meeting agendas link. Public comments. This is the time for the public to address the Planning Commission on issues within the jurisdiction of the Commission that are not on this agenda. All comments are to be directed to the chair of the Commission and shall not consist of any personal attack. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during their comments. There is a time limit of 3 minutes per person. If you haven't already done so, please fill out name and address slips and give them to the Planning Commission secretary. The Planning Commission is prohibited by the Brown Act, state law, from taking action or discussing at length items not included on the printed agenda. Public comments on specific agenda items will be deferred until consideration of the item on the agenda. So with that, the only items I have right now are two email correspondence that came in, both dealing with vacation home rentals. The first one is from a Mr. John Talley Jones. Members of the Planning Commission, I am unable to attend tonight's meeting, but I shall submit this letter to advocate for the following changes to the city's STR/VHR rules when you reconsider them as requested by the City Council at its last meeting. I suggest 3 changes. 1, cap the number of STR licenses to 2 per entity, an entity being an individual, a trust, an LLC, a partnership, or any combination of those things. This was the recommendation of the ad hoc committee of 2021, but it was not adopted. If it were not adopted, any entity with currently more than 2 licenses would be grandfathered in. Number 2, no STR license should be granted to a parcel that touches a property that already has one. One easy way to do this is to keep a parcel map with STR properties identified with a mark or the letter S or V for VHR, etc. One look at the map will illustrate the disallowed properties that share a border or meet at a corner. This would be a step in the right direction for neighborhood integrity. 3, I would like to see a distinction made between residents of 29 Palms who have a spare bedroom or an ADU, which is an auxiliary dwelling unit, or an additional residential property, and investment companies or businesses whose sole model relies on buying and developing land exclusively to create STR structures. These are hotels pretending to be homes. Residential zones should be for residents. To allow locals a chance to participate in the sharing economy, no STR license should be granted to a new build within 3 years of getting an occupancy permit. This restriction could be waived if the owner resides in the structure 7 months out of the year and is registered to vote at that address. This honors owner's property rights. I believe the effect of this would be to reduce the number of purpose-built boutique hotel experience structures. It might even result in investments in improving existing housing stock. Thank you for your time and consideration. John Talley Jones, 29 Palms. The second email correspondence I have is from Sarah Beck. Good evening. I am writing to the Planning Commission to ask you to read this in the tomorrow, December 5th meeting, so to have it on record. I am a vacation rental owner as well as a commercial building owner in the city of 29 Palms. I am proposing to make vacation rental permits transferable with the sale of homes in the city limits of 29 Palms. Terms: as long as the VHR license has been in good standing with no violations and all property has updated permits. During escrow, the owner-seller, new owner-buyer would fill out the proper paperwork from the city, and the new owner would pay all the new fees as if this was a new permit, as well as get the property safety inspected, etc. This way, the city is not losing anything but gaining proper fees to have everything transferred to the new owner. This will greatly help sales of our homes with VHRs attached. It will help raise our property values that we are selling a business. I am an investor and stopped buying homes in 29 Palms because property value dropped so much when the cap happened. Yucca Valley does this, and we just sold one property with the above terms, and it was a slam dunk. Please consider this for vote and to take effect by March or April 2024. Thank you, Sarah Beck. Do I have anybody else who would like to make a public comment at this time? Then I close public comments. Okay, next is commission comments and reports. And Ms. Pahana, we'll start with you, and I'll move on down the line.
I was able to attend the Mayor's Golf Toys for Tots golf tournament this weekend, held in Roadrunner. It was very fun. Had a great time. Recommend everybody join us next year.
Mr. Garcia?
I attended the DBA meeting yesterday.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
I haven't attended any meetings since our last meeting.
Okay. I did attend the city council 2 weeks ago, and I did speak on VHRs. I spoke in as a VHR owner, not as a planning commissioner. And I was pushing to have the new ordinance approved and move forward. However, it's going to be sent back to the planning commission. I was misquoted, and I'll bring that out, but that change is being made by the Desert Trail. I mentioned the fact that the TOT monies brought in by the VHRs could help support portable showers and the navigation center, and they quoted me as saying it was portable toilets, so they're going to correct that. I mean, the twos are very distinction, and I know that we're working very hard to address these issues, so I want the right words out there. And that's all I had. Consent calendar, approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes of November 7th, 2023.
I motion that we accept the minutes as read.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana,
Aye.
Vice Chair Walker,
Aye.
Chair Krushat,
Aye.
approved.
Items removed from our consent calendar for discussion, there is none. I will move on into public hearings, and we'll start with DCA Article 3, Part 2, Specific Plan, Historic Preservation, and Hillside Grading. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular Development Code Amendment is, again, this is a long series of our tweaks and cleanups, addressing three particular issues that, specific plans, historic preservation, hillside grading. We do have the red line copy if we need to bring it up, but we do recommend that the Planning Commission find the changes to the Development Code exempt from CEQA, adopt the resolution, and forward the recommendation to the City Council.
Okay, do I have any questions from the commission for staff? No questions from the commission, then I will open for a public hearing. Do I have anybody who would like to speak on this issue? Then I close the public hearing. Any further discussion from the commission? Then do I have a motion and a second?
I make a motion we find the project exempt from CEQA and adopt the resolution and forward it to the City Council for approval.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second.
And I have a second. A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana,
Aye.
Vice Chair Walker,
Aye.
Chair Krushat,
Aye.
approved.
The next item we have is the DCA change sidewalk vending, peddling, and hawking, and mobile food trucks. And, all right, request the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This we did get a couple of inquiries into this after it was published. A couple of things as far as mobile food vending goes. And in general too, we don't want to have application material and requirements in the development code. That we can handle application materials in the application. So we've removed all of the application requirements like the name, address, site, what needs to be on the site plan, et cetera, out of the development code, and we can handle that administratively through any changes in the application forms as we deem necessary. The requirements are still there. There's, we had one inquiry as to whether or not food vending was still gonna need permits from environmental health. Yes, that's still the case. Other than that, we have some minor tweaks and cleanup. We are being a little, not much, but a little bit more lenient as to where these can go. And again, we've got the red line strikeout version if we need to have that discussion. And this is also reflective of some state law changes that have not been reflected in the development code recently, particularly with regards to mobile food vending. Basically, state law states that if it's on a public street, as long as you cannot prohibit them from like public parking and things like that, unless there's a safety issue. And so we are determining that streets over 35 miles an hour present a safety issue for having food trucks. So that would mean Highway 62 and Adobe would not be allowed to have food trucks. Any other side street or public parking space, we can process a permit for. But those would be the places that we feel would be unsafe to have food trucks in the public right of way. With that, again, we're recommending the Planning Commission fund the project exempt from CEQA, adopt the resolution, and forward the recommendation to the City Council.
Do I have any questions from the commission for staff?
I have a question. The removal of the requirements for entrance and exit, is that particular to each permit separately? That you would have a requirement, or you're just having none at all?
Okay, so that is towards this is an exit, right? So let me break that.
Yeah, I understood we took 15 feet out.
We did take 15 feet out.
Right.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And what we found out is
Because not all locations would require 15 feet. That's why we're removing the language, and that would be per the individual area they want, or it would just mean, okay.
if we kept that 15 feet in there, that would prohibit all types of activities.
Right.
Because it just simply isn't
That much.
15 feet in between.
In between. Okay.
So, from the exit from the downtown area in particular, so, that's why we're removing.
Downtown meaning like side streets, not 62.
Well, you could have sidewalk vending as long as it's not,
35 miles an hour.
People wanting to sell the hats and the balloons or whatever else they do, as long as it's not,
On the 35-mile-an-hour street.
well, that's the big food trucks.
Oh, but the other kind of vending could be there.
The other kind of vending could be.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. That was my only question.
Do I have any other questions from the commission for staff? Okay, then I'm going to open for public hearing. Do I have anybody who would like to comment on this issue? Then I close the public hearing.
I decided I had another question.
Okay, well, commission can further discussion.
I was gonna wait to see if anybody had a question. So we're limiting, so I could sell hats on the sidewalk, but I can't sell food on the sidewalk of a 35-mile-an-hour place.
Well, you can as long as you have the environmental health permit, but what we're finding out is that these mobile carts, it is extremely difficult to get an environmental health permit. So they would still need to have that, and that we feel that might be prohibitive from the small vendors anyway.
Okay. And so 35 miles an hour that's just basically like no Adobe or, okay.
So, yeah, the 35 mile an hour is for food trucks that are parking on the street. So you have them parked in traffic on the highway if they park there. The sidewalk vending is for the small carts that are actually on the sidewalk and they're not blocking traffic.
Okay, and those, if we have seen them, there's no code against it, but this would change that, and they would no longer be able to have the locations of Adobe if we've seen food trucks there.
Food trucks.
For food trucks.
Food trucks parking on Adobe. Now, on Adobe Road
Period.
proper, if they were to find a vacant lot or something, they have permission from the property owner, that's a different discussion.
Oh, okay.
But
Parking
On the street, right.
But they could still have a food cart if they're parked in a parking lot, wheel their little food cart over to in front of a store and sell where they could still do that, correct? Yeah. Okay.
The difference between the food cart and the food truck.
Okay, but it's being found difficult to to get all the requirements to man the food cart. Okay,
Again, we're reflecting more of the state law.
state law. Yeah, of course. Okay, that was it for me.
Okay. Any further questions? All right, then I open it for a motion and a second.
I'll motion that we find the project exempt from CEQA, adopt the resolution, and forward to City Council. Recommend that we approved the adjustment to the development code.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? No? Then do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Sorry. Commissioner Pahana?
Aye.
Vice Chair Walker?
Aye.
Chair Krushat?
Aye.
Approved?
Okay. And that closes our public hearings. We now move to discussion and potential action items, and we have the Oasis Car Wash deferral of utilities undergrounding. And
Right, so this is a request from the proponents of the Oasis Car Wash. They were, if the commission remembers, some of commissioners were not here that last time. The Oasis Car Wash was approved last November. And the whole, and why we're here is that there's a request for a deferral of the undergrounding of conditions. And there are two conditions of approval on the project, P5 and E17, that pertain to this issue. And I'll get to those here in a second. This is where the car wash was approved to be located. This is why we're calling it Oasis, because it's on Oasis Avenue, 29 Palms Highway and Pine Avenue. This is a site plan that was approved. And you do have the applicant here who can point to exactly where the electric lines would be that were under discussion for today. The two conditions are stated here on the screen. Basically saying all on-site and off-site it shall be underground, connecting to the project site. There is a provision in our development code that says applicants can ask for a deferral of this requirement. And the short version of this is that if the planning commission originally approved it, the deferral has to go back to the planning commission. It does not say it's a public hearing of any kind, so this is why it's under discussion potential action items. So these are the findings, and I'll go over them very briefly. One, the request is supported by cost estimates. There's a cost estimate in your packet which we can bring up. I believe it's somewhere around $260 something $260,000, and that estimate came from Southern California Edison. It did not come from a private contractor, so that's directly from them. Two, the cost of such undergrounding on adjacent properties exceeds a reasonable cost. The question is what's reasonable. I don't have an answer for that. That is per the applicant's viewpoint and the planning commission's viewpoint if you agree with the applicant. The property owner shall record into a deferment agreement. The draft deferment agreement is in your packet. We did notice there was a couple of cleanups in there. We need to reference, for instance, we need to reference both conditions of approval that are affected, not just one, because I think we're a little bit uneven in that. And also should be noted that there is no time limit as to when they are asking for this condition to be deferred to. So it would be an indefinite deferral. With the idea being if undergrounding comes in adjacent to them, then they would be required to participate financially and basically not object. And the other finding is that the undergrounding of utilities shall be in a manner consistent with surrounding properties. So on the south side of 62, there are no other properties that have undergrounding of utilities. The closest undergrounding is on the north side of 62. So any connection to anything undergrounded would have to go under 62 to connect to other undergrounding of electric lines. So we do have the applicant here, but our recommendation is you take this into consideration, and if the commission so agrees, then you can make appropriate the findings that I outlined and approve the deferred improvement agreement with the clerical corrections we need to make for the Oasis car wash. So they have been in, just for an overall status update, they have gotten their grading permits and all that. So they're in the middle of preparing for their building permits, and this is one of the conditions of approval that they would have to meet unless the deferral agreement is approved by the planning commission. So with that, that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Do we have the applicant here? Oh, okay. Do I have any? Yeah, just be prepared. You may have some questions from the commission up here. Do I have anybody who has a specific question? The rough, what you gave as a cost estimate is a rough order of magnitude. That's huge. I mean, that's just one step above a swag. Is there any more, and that came from Southern Cal Edison. Okay, so if the work was done by, say, a local contractor that had all the appropriate permits, you know, it's probably going to be a little bit less. Or hard to say.
I
Yeah.
think our proponent
Yeah.
engineer did prepare something. It was very close to this.
Oh, he
can't remember
did?
the exact
Okay.
number. And our city engineer felt that this was approximately correct. I mean, it's impossible to know, but this is approximately correct. So the city engineer has approved of this estimate as an estimate.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have any more questions from staff? Okay. We don't have a requirement to open this to public comment. Yeah. Yeah. This is just the action item. I'll move this forward. I'll move it along. I think we can make the decision. I'm going to look.
Is it possible for me to make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
You know, Vino, I will let you make a comment. Come on forward.
Thank you, sir.
Rules are good if they are applied fairly.
Mhm.
I had a similar situation when I was building the Holiday Inn Express at, what's the address, 73, any case, I forget the address, on the south side, and I had to put those overhead cables underground. And to the Edison was also the telephone lines. And I came and asked the community director at that time, I actually forget his name. He goes, no, you have to get them done prior to your development. So I hope when rules are set, they are applied fairly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
And our current code is written that you could apply for this deferment agreement. Okay.
Yes, the rules say you can ask for this deferment.
You just
Okay.
have to enter the agreement.
You have to enter the agreement.
And then at any time, should the adjacent properties
Then they have to
get done, then they
participate,
have
and
to, no more deferring, you have to comply.
you have to participate, and you have to financially contribute.
Okay.
Okay. So as the undergrounding moves further from the center of town back out there, it's going to have to, this will have to be done.
This will have to be done.
Yeah.
Not unless we put an end date to the deferment.
And you,
Okay.
Not unless we put an end date to the deferment.
Okay.
Do you feel that that's necessary? Because it's inevitable if adjacent properties are developed in such a way that they'd have to comply at that time. So it's inevitable if the adjacent properties are needing to do that same thing.
True, I guess, yes.
Yeah. Does staff have a proposed end date for the deferment?
where we are
Otherwise it would be for like
reflecting what the applicant requested, which did not have a date in it. So staff is, I think this is the first one that we've handled per this provision of the code. So, just for some context here, this is what, this is the property. And utilities are undergrounded over here, but the utilities are not undergrounded on the two commercial properties to the east or the west.
Yeah.
So you could conceivably say, give them an end date, and then if they come to that end date and it hasn't been met for one reason or another, you could request that they come back. I mean, that's perhaps a little difficult to monitor, but that's conceivably what you could do.
I don't want to hold up any new businesses. I think it's important to our development that we do this. Do want to be even keeled, and it's also in an area that and we're only talking about the Southern Cal Edison electrical lines, right? Yeah.
Could I speak?
Sure.
There is cable communication on those poles as well.
Okay.
The telephone is underground, but the cable is overhead as well.
Okay. And what's your feeling on a deferment date too?
The biggest issue is getting it across the highway. Once that happens, and any other development, you can see there's an alley that goes through there, same one that went behind Project Phoenix. And any new development along there, would need to be undergrounded because all of the utilities are overhead except for the telephone. But the biggest issue is getting it across the highway. And Caltrans requires that you bore and jack.
Yeah.
So it's not like you could open trench it, which is the cheapest, construction method. So it's really an issue of getting it across the highway. Once it gets across the highway, then it's relatively easy to do.
Yeah.
And the developer's willing to do it. It's just, that's a big ticket for a small little car wash.
Yeah. So right now, all the Southern Cal Edison utilities would be on that south side of the street. We got, yeah.
It
It would be
goes
above the
across-
ground. Yeah, above the ground.
Yeah. And in addition, it continues to the south to serve those southern properties. There's a pole right there in the center
Okay.
of the property line right here. So, it's a bigger issue than just putting it underground.
I understand.
Under her property.
Did they give you an idea of where, if you did bring it across, where that would enter, and maybe your future plans could just incorporate that, so it's just like an easy connect should you ever have to do it in the future?
We can definitely consider that, but Southern California Edison does their own thing.
Yeah, it could come at
And-
any other corner or
And
something.
they would, it'd be up to them to
Okay.
design it. Currently, it comes in on the northwest corner to a pole that's there. But don't know what their design would be. We could guesstimate, but,
Yeah, understood.
spend money and then have them come back and say, no, we want it on the other corner.
Yeah.
So,
Which would be close to par, right?
right. So.
Okay. Well, I'll start this out. I'd like to promote the business. I'd like to okay the deferment, but I feel uneasy about not having a date. Can we come up with a date? Do you want to come up with a date later? Do you want to?
No, we can certainly put a date in.
I disagree with having
Okay.
to put a date. It's an inevitable thing should others do it as well.
Yeah, so you're saying it'll probably happen, and it's going to
If
happen
it-
within
if-
10 years, 7 years, it's going to happen.
But if they're all small businesses wanting to come into these vacant lots and develop the vacant lot, they're all gonna say that $250,000, $300,000 ticket is way too much for my business to take in. I want the deferment as well.
But if they have to do it, you said they have to contribute cost, right? It doesn't, nobody said the whole thing, right? They just have to contribute cost.
So
What does
would
that
you-
mean? What would that look like? If the deferment means that until this guy and this guy does it, but I have to contribute a cost, does that mean I have to pay for mine and they have to pay for theirs and they would have to pay for theirs?
That's how we're interpreting it at this time.
Understood.
Okay.
Again, this is, I don't know if anyone has exercised this provision of the code, and I think it's a fairly recent addition, but I don't know how long ago it was put in there, but it is in there.
How long has this been part of the code?
So that's 2016 or later.
So, Max, your point trying to be made was that they're just deferring cost, period. It could be higher, even long, like later.
Well, yeah, chances are it's going to cost more the later down the road they try to do it. But it's also, if we defer it without an end date, and then in 6 months somebody's wanting to develop one of these other blocks, they're going to also say, hey, well, that's too much money for me to absorb. I want to defer the underground utilities as well. And everybody's just going to say, I want to defer it, and we're just kicking that can down the road. Either we're going to require them to do it, someone to do it, or we're not.
Yeah, but, so, yeah, like you said, this is the first time and we've never had a deferment. We don't have anything to draw back on, or what are the conditions of the deferment. I still want to promote a new business coming in. And, yeah, you can do a lot of what ifs. I mean, and we'll be here all night putting those together. But,
I mean, it's
I mean, what else would be in that? That site is like, that's all for the car wash. Right,
You mean adjacent to?
there it is, so,
But in all those other empty blocks,
Mhm.
lots, there was no undergrounded utilities because it's on the other side of the highway.
right,
So someone's going to have to bring it onto this side of
side
the
of the
highway.
highway.
And those are all much smaller lots than the car wash. I don't want to slow the car wash down. I don't want to make it harder for the car wash to open up their doors.
Mhm.
But I'm just saying, at some point in time, we're going to have to make somebody bring that utility across the highway underneath the ground.
Okay, how
Is
about
there
this?
grants
or
How
something
how
the
about giving the
city-
business an opportunity to be successful and put a 5-year deferment? Give them 5 years.
I feel like that's a decent compromise.
I am fine with, I would just like to put an end date. Deferring it is fine by me. Because
Alright.
the $250,000 bump right now to start is making it hard. Deferring it is fine, just not ending the deferment at some point in time
Okay,
doesn't seem
okay,
reasonable to me.
all right.
and the applicant, Vicky can correct me if I'm wrong, but the car wash is only here. This part has not been under consideration. Is that correct? So we could conceivably say you could be 5 years or until this part is up for consideration or up for development.
Yeah, but my only problem with that is I've okayed a lot of projects in this town that just never happen.
Well, I
And
mean,
as long
it's
as you
up-
don't develop it, then the
Well,
deferment goes on forever.
But he put an end date to it,
Yeah.
5 years
Yep.
or until they decide to develop this other portion of the lot, the project, which I am quite good with.
That sounds, can we put a codicil like that in there?
This is up for
Okay,
discussion.
I
That's why
like
we're
that,
here.
I like that option. It's 5 years or until the other side gets developed. That's how long the deferment goes.
Now, in 5 years, if they don't accomplish,
Well,
Then
they have to do
then
it.
they would have to come
are
back.
they able
They
to
would have
apply
to,
for
yeah.
another deferment,
Then
or is
they
it
would-
just once?
No.
Then they would have to come back for
And ask for an extension or
Or-
additional time on the deferment.
right
Is-
because again, this is the first time this is
Yeah.
being utilized. So
And then there's no incentive to build the second half
Mhm.
because then you have to put that giant price tag on it. So we're not, like, you're just kind of, is there a way that SoCal Edison could be approached with like a grant for doing this for our city, so it's not just
The
on
city could.
one, like, owner to pay for all this requirement?
I don't-
Or is it
I've never heard
typical
of
that a developer would pay these costs?
Yeah.
Different jurisdictions do different things.
Mm-hmm.
So different jurisdictions do require this, the undergrounding. Other jurisdictions don't.
I wonder if
Don't
there is
require
like
it.
a program that maybe SoCal Edison runs that if you can't afford these things as a developer, which sounds weird, but like a price break or something.
Well, it's Southern
Mhm.
California Edison. It's not
Yeah.
just this area of Southern California. I mean,
Yeah.
they cover a lot of geographic area.
I like the idea of the time limit because it gives them an opportunity to get a successful running business going. And I still agree with Max's compromise of 5 years or development of the property.
Of the other,
Yeah,
of the other
of the
part
other
of the parcel.
parcel.
Could I answer?
Sure. You can always
um,
comment.
Yeah. Project Phoenix, all of the undergrounding of the overhead lines in the alley, which is the same alley, was done with Rule 20A money, which was a grant from Southern California Edison. They actually did the undergrounding, but it's a bank that they had of monies that were contributed to that Rule 20A funding. And I don't know how long it takes to replenish or, build that money back up, but that project was $1.6 million to underground all of that stuff through Project Phoenix. So it's more efficient to do a larger project than to just try to eliminate 2 or 3 poles. So that's why the Rule 20A really made a lot of sense for
Okay.
Project Phoenix. So.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. And so that's what's on the table for right now. The 5-year plus, if they develop it, whichever comes first. Deferment's good till 5 years,
Mhm.
or the development of the other parcel. I mean, I'm assuming, do I have a consensus that from the commission?
I'm definitely for the deferment agreement, but I don't know about the time. But
Okay.
it doesn't mean that you can't proceed with your motion. Ms. Diane, you were going to say something? Oh,
Oh.
so I can't see you.
Okay.
Is-
So do you need a
So
roll call?
is that the consensus of the commission?
Do you want to?
We need a
Then I'm going to
motion.
call for a vote. Yeah. Yeah.
Need a motion first? Are you entertaining motions?
Yes, I'm entertaining a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the deferment at a 5-year timeline to the end of the deferment, or if the other side of the parcel is developed, whichever comes first, that ends the deferment.
Okay. And I'll second.
Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Palhana,
Nay.
Vice Chair Walker,
Aye.
Chair Krushat,
Aye.
approved.
All right. Okay, next we have the PAAC discussion on the 29 sculpture.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? My name is Anna Stump. I am the chair of the Public Arts Advisory Committee, and I'd like to introduce you to Paul Razzo. He is a brand new committee member, just 1 month old, and he's invaluable to us already. We are presenting ideas for the 29 exclamation point sculpture restoration, and looking for a recommendation from you tonight before we proceed to the City Council. Next slide. So the PAAC is tasked, it's one of our mandates, to take care of the public art that the city already owns. And this is our first emphasis because it is in bad shape and it is an important icon for the city. It's a tourism element, and it is a very important artwork, and it's falling apart. So that's why we're pushing for this. Our goal is to repair Chuck Kaplinger's Landmark 29 sculpture and increase the accessibility to it according to ADA compliance standards. How can we achieve this goal? We have two possible options. We can restore the sculpture where it is, and we can make that area accessible at the current location at Donald Hill. Or we can restore the sculpture and we can move it to another location. Here's what we've done so far. We had a meeting with members of the TBID and Mayor Wright and some PAAC members at the location. We had the sculpture surveyed by a professional conservator from the Palm Springs Art Museum because, you know, we're not all sculptors. None of us are actually sculptors. We wanted to know what was a professional's opinion, and indeed they came back with a report that said it's in pretty bad shape. We used our own funds for that report. We have gotten several estimates for repair and relocation. Last week we pitched we made this presentation to the TBID, and they are in favor. They voted to contribute $5,000 of their funds towards the restoration of the sculpture. So they're on board with doing something. And today we would like to get your recommendation. Next slide. So these pictures show some of the way it looks right now. From far away, it looks great. When you get close to it, it had a protective coating put on it. We believe when it was first installed, that coating has worn away from weather and the sun. It's peeling off. It looks pretty bad. Chuck Kaplinger is distressed about the way it looks. It also has some holes in it which need to be fixed. So basically, it needs about $4,000 of work on the sculpture. Next slide. Here's the report from the Palm Springs Museum expert showing her opinion about the sculpture. Okay. So here are some estimates that we have. Option 1 for Donald Hill, $3,000 to $4,000 to restore the surface. When we started talking about a parking lot, the city engineer, Richard Pedersen, actually had from 10 years ago a drawing of a parking lot that, because this has come up before, and that drawing had been estimated to cost $46,000, and he said 10 years ago, double it. So that's why we have a $92,000 cost for the parking lot. This does not include the pathway that would have to be built in front of the sculpture to make it ADA accessible, or any of the road and curb improvements. So it's quite a bit more than, $92,000. The second option that we're just talking about today, although that doesn't have to be the only option, is to move it to Freedom Plaza. We did get an estimate of $10,000 to move the sculpture. Some people have told us that is too high, that we think that they could get it for less than that. Again, we would need to restore the sculpture, and then there would have to be lighting and a plaque. There is no plaque on the sculpture right now, which is pretty bad. That's a travesty. This is an important artist. We need a plaque. Next slide. And then we've got some pros and cons. So the pros of leaving it at Donald Hill are this location is beloved by many people in the community, and we understand that totally. The background for photos is beautiful. It's the sky, basically, because you're taking it from a lower position, so it's very dramatic. It's great. And the site already has lighting. The cons are parking is difficult and dangerous. There is no ADA access. In fact, when Chuck went to visit it, he had difficulty walking there to see his own sculpture. It's hard to stand in front of the photo because it slopes down. So as you're backing up to take pictures of the sculpture with your friends in front of it, tourists or locals. You're starting to slide down the hill, and we're worried about people just like falling into the highway. Brianne has told us that tourists do have difficulty finding the sculpture, and there are 4 street signs that are blocking the visual access from the highway in front of that lot. Next slide. And do you want to just like start talking about, because Paul did these amazing recreations, so you want to take over from now? Sure. Okay, great.
So this example is really just based off of the drawing that Anna had previously mentioned that we already had, and so this was just kind of a way of illustrating an idea of what could be there. Again, this is the more expensive option, but you see the driveway leading up to the parking spots. A little bit of foliage, a little bit of greenery, which is just me being extra, probably with the rendering. But the sidewalk is definitely what would be crucial, and meeting that ADA compliance so everyone can enjoy this, and also take photos in front of it and enjoy it. Next slide. You want to go over your pros and cons? So the pros and cons, if we were to move it to Freedom Plaza, pros: location, has ample parking, ADA access, and ADA bathrooms. It's easy for tourists to find. Tourists can do 2 things in the plaza: National Park Visitor Center and see the 29 exclamation point sculpture. $15K was budgeted for the plaza art. Nothing has been used. Photography in front and around the sculpture would be easy. Looking at the cons, it does need lighting. More interaction with public would cause the sculpture to need annual maintenance, and the background behind sculpture potentially visually chaotic. So we'll go sort of in the next slides what we mean in terms of background. So I tried to keep lighting in mind with these mock-ups just based on the orientation. So you can see if it's north facing, that southern light will really blow out or darken your photo. So that makes it difficult actually. And so if we move it westward facing, number one, it's more visible from the highway as the actual 29, just as you're approaching it. We also get a bit more light on it. This is a rendering that shows an example if you wanted to have a planter sort of around it, again, more greenery. We could also do maybe a little bit of a fence around it, a small, shin height fence just to keep people from touching it too often. Next slide. And then this is if we wanted to do temporary mural walls behind it. So we have 2 options, one sort of a bolder geometric style, just so you guys get an idea of what that may look like, and then one with a more natural rendering. Again, you could see how the lighting here, really shadows with that wall behind it. But a good opportunity with the wall would be, number one, community engagement for changing the wall murals from time to time. And then also if we wanted to have any potential wayfinding in the back, sort of a town, map, just to show our way around other landmarks. Next slide. And then, so this one is so if we were sort of matching the angle of the stage, so it's sort of facing the highway, gives you a little bit more light, and then this was a suggestions based off of the artist to possibly paint the 29 in orange color. And then return on investment, which I think is maybe the biggest slide, is increase local civic pride in the city. Obviously, the more people that can interact with this, the more people that have family photos taken here at the plaza, the more engaged our community is in it. Increase understanding of importance in art and culture in the city. I think, especially if you're a kid growing up in the city, you want to know that someday your art could be up in the city. So, I mean, just being able to approach a piece that was made, by a local artist and has a plaque that says their name and, this is an achievable goal to be a long-term standing part of my city. And then, of course, increase visibility of the 29 sculpture on social media with increased tourism to see the sculpture. Like Anna mentioned, a lot of tourists do miss it. This would be a lot more prevalent and then would hopefully lead to a lot more social media engagement. If you look up the city of 29 Palms, you see those images all over.
Okay.
That's everything. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We do want to mention that after the T-bid meeting, 2 other members of the public came up to us and offered 2 other locations that we haven't really explored. One was the 29 Palms Art Gallery. They said they could possibly have it on their property, it's a nonprofit. And then Anya and Vino offered that they could have it on their property, which would be on private property. And I don't know how the city feels about that, but it's also just another option for another place to put the sculpture.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna open it up for the commission to ask questions. I have, I'll just jump in there. There's always an option 3. And option 3 would be take the funding we have, restore the sculpture. Of course, we still have the problem of people wanting to crawl up that hillside and get their picture taken. So that kind of makes me in favor of moving it to Freedom Plaza.
Yeah, this is the mock-up of
Yeah.
what the parking lot would have to look like.
Is this private or public property?
The city owns this property.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
For context here, let me. Here it is.
Yeah, yeah, there it
Um,
is.
So it's actually owned by the city. So, and I think that's why it was put there, because the city happens to own that property.
Yeah.
And if you were to, this is what it looks like from the highway. And if you were to be almost directly in front of it, you can, this is what it looks like. You can see the slope, you can see the street signs and the poles and all that. So, just a further illustration of what was discussed.
Yeah, I just like the idea of moving it to Freedom Plaza where more people can see it. And it is a tribute to Chuck Kaplinger and his artwork. But I'm going to allow the other commissioners to comment.
I like the idea of moving it to Freedom Plaza. I like the idea of mural too, but I wonder if we could maybe set that back so you can still have opportunity for other engaging activities in that space and not just the sign consuming. Like maybe if it was just set back a little bit more. I know there's like the ATM, but maybe that wall could be the mural and you could have it back, just set back a little bit more.
I don't think the exact location has been picked yet.
The
Anna.
conceptual design of
Yeah.
having it there is appealing.
I mean, we could still, with the funding available, they can go ahead and start on the restoration. And then we can later make the decision of whether we build them, which is what I'd like to do. I'd like to do a 2-tier. Yes, we recommend that they go ahead and restore the sculpture and then defer the decision on movement or,
The exact location.
yeah.
So conceptually, like the Freedom
Yeah.
Plaza, but the exact
Yes.
location yet to be determined.
Yeah, because if the idea is to have that scenery in the background different than being like downtown, perhaps there is a better location, just not building on a hillside that seems to be probably more expensive.
And to Chairman Stump's point, if you have people standing here, this is a little bit of a safety hazard here.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah, because even by like the park, where that park design we were thinking of being able to do by the theater, there's a parking lot there. There's beautiful scenery and mountain in the background there, and we own that land there. So I think definitely restoring, subject to location preference per city
So
council.
come back.
or
Let's
TBID.
come back at some later time with some more definitive locations, and then we can have a further discussion.
If you're looking for they're looking for a recommendation to move to the city council, and would that be with a request for additional funding? It sounds like it. If movement only costs us $10,000 to $12,000, and that's a high estimate.
it's so I guess and Anna can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the request is, should we keep it there and put in a parking lot and restore it, or should we find another place to move it to and restore it?
I like the idea, personally, I like the idea of moving it to a more prominent location and doing the restoration.
Okay.
That's mine. I don't know. I won't know how the rest of the commissioners feel.
Yeah, I'm good with moving it, because if you build that parking lot, then you got a bunch of cars in the back of your picture.
Yeah. Good point.
Right.
And it's expensive. So I like moving it to Freedom Plaza. It seems to be a good spot. Just maybe the ultimate location within the plaza could be defined a little bit better, but I'm good with moving it and restoring it.
I'm also good with moving it and restoring it.
Okay.
Is it going to be open to public? To ask questions?
Oh, okay, yes, you can come and ask a
Discussion.
question.
What's the distance between the sign and the paved tarmac, asphalt, street? Where the sign is to where the street is, what's the distance? Do we know?
Unknown at this time.
I just don't understand with the distance from
mean-
where to where.
From the
From
highway
the front
to
of the
center.
sign
Yeah.
to the curb.
From
Of the
front of
highway.
the sign to the curb, I can give you a rough estimate, so
Yeah,
just
you can
hang
give
on.
me a rough and dirty.
Yeah, I
she's
can
doing
measure
that
in
right
this
now.
too.
Boom.
So,
30 feet.
again, I'm doing this with an audience, so hang in there if I don't get it exactly right. So approximately 37,
Seven.
40 feet, something like that,
37,
plus or
40 feet.
minus. Again, we're doing this on an aerial without
I
a
got it.
survey. but-
Understand.
Thanks. In fact, I've seen many people, stop by and they actually take out the photographs there because
Yes.
of the background of the mountain and the slopes that you see. Now, we talk about trying to slow the traffic and try to get people to walk to downtown. Now, the land is owned by the city. If we can think about probably fixing the curbs and gutters and making that site ADM in compliance, rather than having a hodgepodge, development coming from Donald Hill down to the Freedom Plaza. Let's start some way. This is a great, location. I like what, Chuck did. And we can at least get, people seeing other places in the town as well. That's my input. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So this has already been through, of course, Shelley. Thank you. So this went to City Council before, and Anna has already heard my thoughts on this. But one of the things that's important about being at Donnell Hill, much like what Vino was saying, is that a lot of people consider that the introduction to 29 Palms, not really down at Stater Brothers. Like as soon as I hit Donnell Hill and start coming down into the downtown district, that's almost like the delineating spot. So it's nice to have a mural in that location. I'm not sure why we need to have a 36-car parking lot to accommodate that, or whatever it is. It looked like it was very large. And then I had another thought about this. It was what Vina was saying is what triggered it. There already is other development that's happening, including a car wash that's just 2, parcels away. You've got a coffee shop that's just the other side of it also. So the downtown district is sprawling already, and there is going to be additional parking in that vicinity aside from like on the hill itself, which doesn't take away from what the PAAC is saying about ADA and safety and some other issues. But just keep in mind that we already have a little bit of downtown sprawl, and that might help facilitate some of that parking concern also. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, my only feeling on that is whether the parking lot that gets put in behind it is 12 or 32, it's still cars behind it and people, it's still gonna detract from the view. I'm still, I hear what everybody's saying. I know as you're coming down that highway, you'll miss it unless you're looking for it. And I still am for putting it into a more prominent location like Freedom Plaza where they can see it.
Or maybe it could just go the other way, put the parking lot in front and move the sculpture to the back. That way No, you're taking it still up. So the parking's first and then move the sculpture like more up. If that's the desired location. I don't feel like you're getting
The cost
consensus
is going to be
from us.
about, again, that was a conceptual parking lot layout and pedestrian layout. Nothing's fully engineered, but you were looking at roughly $100,000 to put in a parking lot, even if it was moved back and
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, my opinion is to put it somewhere else, but yes, to restore it.
Okay.
Perhaps exploring near the theater, that side of town with the beautiful mountain in the background.
I'm okay with restoring it, but if there's a better location, or if the background is what matters the most, then I'm okay with. I'm open to other ideas on placement or anything like that. Or she is right. We do have a lot more coming into the other side, and I guess the idea would be to stretch out the downtown area and give people more things to see throughout 29, just not in just a consolidated location. So that is a fair point.
And it frees up space for possibly other attractions that we can put there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what would you like? How would you like our consensus put forward?
What is the consensus?
I think the consensus is that we restore it and find a place to move it to,
Okay.
rather than building the parking lot.
Is that the consensus of
That
the Plan
is the
Commission?
consensus.
Yeah.
Is that enough, Chair? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next item, our 2024 calendar.
Okay, so.
No. I don't want to meet that many times.
No, this is per ordinance, this would be the calendar for next year, for the first and third meetings of every month. I've already marked on their council for January 2, because that's the week after Christmas, and staff won't be here to produce anything for that agenda anyway. What you are seeing here highlighted in red are
Near
Sorry.
holidays.
What you're seeing there are highlighted in red are either those are planning commission dates that also happen to be on the week of a holiday. So we can certainly keep the rest of these dates if you like. If the commission wants to reconsider or reschedule some of these dates, it's up to you. But that is for your consideration. But, particularly like July 2 is 2 days before 4th of July,
Yeah.
for instance.
Juneteenth is right there.
We've always canceled, I mean, we've canceled the meeting or not had a meeting on the holiday weekends.
Yeah, and this is why I'm bringing it up.
We can conduct our business. I don't think we need that many meetings.
Okay, so the next regularly scheduled one would be on the 16th, but that's also a day after a holiday.
Yeah, Martin Luther King.
It's the day after the holiday.
It's a day after the holiday.
Don't we have something scheduled for that?
Yes, we need to
Mhm.
do that one.
So that one's already.
We can unread that one.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. That's the big homeless committee meeting, so we keep that one.
Okay. And
And that's around President's Day?
weekend.
Is,
that's President's Day.
that's the day after President's Day.
That's the day after President's Day. This is the day after
April Fools?
Mhm.
Cesar Chavez Day, because Cesar's,
Okay.
yeah. So I think we're having a holiday because Cesar Chavez Day is March 31st. So the city would have a holiday on the 1st, and then this would be the day after that holiday. June 18th is the same week as Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
July 4th is July 4th. July
Labor
2 is
Day.
the same week as July 4th, and September the 3rd is the day after Labor Day. So are any of these days that you want that? I think there's consensus
keep-
here in July.
I would like to keep my opinion, I would like to keep the holiday weekends as free as possible,
Okay.
and then try to put our business in the days that aren't.
But
Okay.
these are like Tuesday. Like, you had your weekend and you had your holiday, and now it's Tuesday.
Yeah. So you probably didn't read your material because you were out partying. No.
Well, we have a sworn commitment, so hopefully, if you have something pressing, there's enough for a quorum, and we could continue.
Okay.
Keep in mind that most of my work revolves around these holidays too,
Yeah.
just because that's when people most of the time do get tattooed.
Yeah.
So.
So we have it.
So what
I
on
think
a
I'm
Tuesday?
hearing. I think I'm hearing Labor Day and 4th of July we cancel.
Yep.
These are not as well known of holidays.
No.
June, April. They're not as important, but they're still holidays.
Yeah,
They're
well,
just
we
not as
already have
common.
January 16th.
We already have January 16th.
16th locked in, so.
So that would be the only one we
Yeah.
would be having in January.
Day after President's Day, I'm probably good to go with, yeah.
You're good to
I'm
meet?
good for that, yeah.
Okay. Cesar Chavez.
I think that's only your state holiday, but that's not a federally recognized, is it?
Cesar Chavez is a state holiday.
State, yeah, it's not federal.
Okay, so are we good for April 2? June 18th, that's the same week as Juneteenth. Do we want to cancel
But
that?
it's after, so I'm good with June 18th.
You want to keep it?
Huh?
You want
I
to keep?
would. I mean, it's the June 18th. We've had the celebrations, so.
So
Do you want to meet on June 18th?
yes,
Okay. Okay.
I
So-
think I concur.
Okay. So I guess we have, out of all of these, and And then if we don't have business to conduct, we can always cancel more, but I just want to set this
Oh, I
in
fully intend
stone,
to.
right, right as it is. So, okay, that's our calendar.
All right.
Okay.
Do you have any updates?
Oh, I do, because we do have the celebration tonight. I want to
Right,
let
which everybody
everyone
wants
know.
to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I know we're all kind of anxious to get there. So Adobe Road is blocked off. And parts of downtown are blocked off. So if anyone wishes to go, you probably need to go down Buena Vista, down to Split Rock, or go all the way around to the east side of Adobe. But my suggestion is to go down Buena Vista. Okay?
I have one last thing. Sorry. I do a warm clothing drive every year for the homeless. So if you guys have any warm clothes or blankets you want to donate, feel free to reach out to me. 'Cause, yeah, they go to good things. You would probably just best to contact me because I collect with Rotary.
Okay.
Josh Tree. Yeah. Ideally by Sunday of next week. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Very good.
Children's clothes will definitely be used for sure. So whatever there is, because I think like we've talked about before, there's a lot of families that are pretty struggling here. Yeah, all ages work.
Okay, so if I pull it together, you can just give me a call?
Yeah, just give me a call.
And if, I mean, maybe if I'm coming home from work one night, you tell me
Sure.
where to drop it off or.
And if worse comes to worse, I can always pick it up too.
Sounds good.
Cool. Appreciate you.
I know, right?
Yeah, as long as they're warm clothes, all I ask is if you can wash them before, and then you'd be surprised.
I would not think about it.